mention about the going back for vessels. You said precious vessels. Actually, what happened was, and that's not even mentioned in the scripture itself. It says that in chapter 32 of Parshat Vayishlach, it says in verse 23, but he got up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 handmaids, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Abok. And when he took them and had them cross over the stream, he sent over his possessions. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. So there is a concept that the sages talk about that he went back because he did forget something. And this is not mentioned overtly in the verses at all, but Rashi tells us that this tradition that he forgot, and the expression is small vessels, and he makes it actually sound that they were insignificant. Yeah. He doesn't say precious. He makes it sound as if they were just like, I used to say like Tupperware. Plastic objects, something like kind of inconsequential that he went back for. And there's all sorts of different kind of approaches to what that means exactly, what it represents, and how it shows us that the great tzaddikim are very careful, with waste, and they don't want to waste anything, and so he went back for these items. But I once shared with you, if you remember, there's a very, very beautiful tradition about those small vessels that he went back, which is virtually unknown to most people, but I received it from a very great mentor, and that is that on the ark, on Noah's ark, as you know, Noah's dove came back with an olive branch,
right?
And that olive branch had olives on it, and according to this idea, Noah actually made some olive oil out of those few olives that were on the branch. And that jar of olive oil was passed down. And it was passed down to Shem and to Avraham, and it was passed down to the forefathers. And that is the oil that Yaakov had used to anoint the place, the stone, when he woke up. Back in last week's Torah portion, when he woke up from the dream, he had that oil there on Mount Moriah, and that's what he used. And he had forgotten it there. He had left it there. And according to this wild and unbelievable tradition, that is the container of oil that was discovered by the Maccabees, by the high priest on Hannukah, that was untainted by the Greeks. It was that very container of oil that kind of connects the whole story of Hannukah with the story of Yaakov and all the way back to Noach. And the truth is that these days that we're in now also are the days that we're reading in these Torah portions about Jacob, about the patriarch Jacob. Yaakov's force, as it were, his spirit, his presence is very dominant during these days because, later on we're going to read when Yaakov goes down to Egypt and he's finally united with Yosef, we learn about the period of mourning for Yaakov. And actually we learn that Yaakov passed away on Sukkot, but he was not buried until Hannukah. So all of these days that we're in now are kind of like the backstory, the backdrop is the life of Yaakov.